My name is Jason. This is the project I created. As you can see, more or less, I took the Nylas Quick Start, added a little bit of coffee and a little bit of grit, created a sample email account to go back and forth. And the problem I was really trying to solve was, what do you do when you've stepped away from your computer or you've taken a day off or the weekend and someone goes nuts with a really long thread that they decide to have over the weekend? And now you have to decide, how do I want to get caught up? So to solve for that, if you have an email application like this, you might have some simple Q&A and going back and forth on individual messages. But for these threads, there is a button to summarize the entire thread. And so by clicking that, I get a summary. So this is using an AI tool to come up with a text summarization, and I'll go into that in a moment, but also presenting a little bit of analytics around the thread itself. The idea being, okay, this was an 8-message thread. I could go read all those messages and replies and sort of sift through it myself, but there were 265 words, 8 messages with 3 participants. Longer threads would be much more extreme. I could probably calculate exactly how long it would take me to read that number of words, or how many pages sometimes, especially if all of the email responses are very lengthy. Some people are very brief, others might ramble on a little bit. I also see the start to the end of this thread. The fact that this thread occurred over a 4-hour or so window with 2 messages per hour is actually not too extreme. Some threads I've been on might be just 1 hour with like 30 messages. Some message threads might be, an entire week. So I wanted to get a sense of that duration, but also when was this last active? The label here, maybe I'll fix that and say that, well, was this last active? And it's been more than a day since the last message. And I think that gives a couple of things. One, I've got a summarization of what this whole thread was about. And I think this model did a pretty good job, because I was looking at how to store metadata as well as the snippets of the underlying API, whether this thread summaries could actually be stored with the objects themselves, as opposed to calculated on the fly, especially since there's multiple people on this thread, right? We know there's 3 participants, and they all might want to see the summary at the end, or it might be forwarded to someone else. So having that thread summary go along for the ride could be very valuable. But I can also make an assessment like, hey, this was a quick thread or a long thread.